Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to ripen your harvest indoors. But before we continue on the episode, I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody who may have liked, shared, subscribed, followed. I hope you're enjoying the fruit of your labor and enjoying your harvest. Today's episode, I mentioned, if you may know the Calgary or its environs, you'll notice that it's getting chilly at night. And as it gets colder overnight, we may need to move our plants indoors, or we may need to ripen our plants, fruits indoors, and that's what we're going to be talking about on this episode. Before we proceed to talk about today's topic, how is your harvest going? Here's mine. I was quite fortunate and blessed to at least get a couple of fruit every other day. And then because of the number of fruits I have, I prefer to just pluck them when they're reached their breaking stage, i.e. the orangey, and letting them ripen indoors. So this is my tiniest fruit for the season. And as you can see, my mixed breeds of tomatoes and peppers. I think the one I was most excited for in terms of my harvest this season was my bell pepper. This was the size of my bell pepper. It was literally bigger, or almost as big as my palm. And my first habanero for the season was that. And even if your harvest may not have been bountiful, please don't give up. Try again next year. It took me almost 3 years, actually 3 years, before I was able to grow my habanero peppers. And with different trial and errors, it took me a while before I was able to. So please don't lose patience. Next year you'll also get a bountiful harvest, just in case your harvest wasn't as bountiful this year. So the important question now, when do you move your harvest indoors? And bottom line is when it gets too cold for a harvest, when it gets too cold for your fruits. Check your local weather daily. They often issue frost warnings. Like for now, I understand based on the temperature, it's going to be a little bit cold. We're going to hit below 0 degrees temperature sometime later this week or early next week. So just monitor the weather. Whenever you find that the weather is dipping to below 0, if you have your things planted in pots, move them in. If they're outside and it's a short dip, try covering them as well. If you're unable to cover them or in planters, please pluck all your green tomatoes before frost happens. Because once frost happens, that's it, your fruits are gone. They will freeze by the following morning. So I'm going to show you how to ripen your tomatoes and peppers indoors. What you will need is containers or surfaces, and then your supporting element, which is going to be more of either a banana or an apple. I prefer apples. So to ripen your tomatoes indoors, what you would need is a brown bag or a carton. For this demonstration, I'm just using a brown bag and a small quantity. So you need your green tomatoes, and then you also need an apple or a banana. I think they say the apple releases some gas that helps to ripen the tomatoes. So what you do, just take your brown bag, put your apple in, put your tomatoes in, seal the bag or fold the bag, and then put it in a dry, cool place. I put it in my pantry, and then I'll check on it every couple of days to see how it's ripening. Okay, so this is 1 week later, and we're checking our tomatoes that we put to ripen inside the paper bag with the apple in our pantry. So taking it out to check it, and as we can see, we have 2 tomatoes that are ripe, 2 tomatoes that have reached the breaking stage, i.e. they're changing color and getting a little bit more orange. So what you do with these ones is you just move them out of the bag. You can just put them in your bowl on your counter for them to finish ripening, and then the remaining tomatoes, you put it back inside the bag with the apple. Okay, this one is getting a little bit blushing, it's getting a little bit yellow. So, and if you notice, the tomatoes are not as green as they were when you initially put it. So you just put it back into your paper bag or your carton, depending on what you're using. Put your apple back in, you cover, and put back in a dry and cool place. In my case, it is in my pantry. Okay, so now this is week 2 of having our tomatoes with an apple into the paper bag, and we're going to check to see progress. Whoa, interesting. So as you can see, we have our ripe tomatoes. This is a golden jubilee, so it's meant to be this color, so this is equally ripe. So I would move these out, and then these ones I will put back in. So the idea is to continue checking week by week. And then what I also tend to do is I tend to add more of my green tomatoes into the bag as I get more. So for example, I have these, so these will be joining in the bag. So just the idea of topping it up and then checking at least once a week to see how the tomatoes are faring and bring them out. So you continue with this process on and off until all your green tomatoes are ripe. I know it can be a bit tiring for some, but as with all things planting, it teaches us patience. Patience, patience, patience. Thank you. So a couple of tips and tricks for successful indoor ripening. 1. Make sure the apple or banana that you use is ripe. Keep it ventilated, i.e. don't put it in like a nylon bag or something where there's no air circulating. Keep it ventilated, because the air will prevent it from molding or rotting. If you're using a carton, make sure it's layered carefully. 1 layer only. Avoid stacking your fruits high. Single layers preferably. Monitor frequently. Check your fruits every couple of days for softness and ripeness. Remove any fruit that is ripe, because when you keep them in, they tend to ripen faster or get overripe. Make sure you keep at room temperature in a cool and dry place. Like as I told you, I use my pantry. And then as always for planting, be patient. It takes several days to 1 week, so just be patient. Unfortunately, planting season is coming to an end, but I truly hope you have enjoyed your garden, big or small, being able to enjoy the fruits of your harvest, and also just generally finding a new hobby that you like to embark on. The question then goes in terms of, what next? So in the coming weeks, I'll be starting a new series, just going through life lessons from gardening. That is what you are growing beyond the soil. And then I'll be sharing with you how I was able to learn more about life lessons practically from my experience as a gardener. Stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys so much. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and do have yourself a wonderful day. Bye bye.